Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Fire Up Michigan. My name is Scott Morganroth, appropriately named Motor City Madmouth. Before we started this broadcast, we had Fire Up Florida with Adam Lichtenstein, who covers the Miami Hurricanes for the South Florida Sun-Sentinel. We had a great show, folks. Hope you can watch it. We were able to get some in-depth analysis of the Miami Hurricanes. But we're going to go from another U of M, as in Miami, and I'm going to bring my crew on first, but that other U of M is going to be University of Michigan. But before we go over there, great segue. There you go, Mr. Muscles. Okay. With that said, since you go ahead and flush the muscles and the peace sign, and just to let everybody know that before I turn it over to Mr. Jeremy, that this show can actually be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Google, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Also, feel free to subscribe to the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel at no cost. Go to youtube.com, hit South Florida Tribune, hit subscribe button, get all the remote broadcast, as well as what we do on live streaming and so forth as well. See a lot of different ways that we can hopefully educate and inform. And with that said, I do the best I can to try to put together the best people that we have out there. We're going to introduce our newest teammate last, okay, and we'll go with the holdovers. All right, Smoking Jeremy, welcome back.
Oh, glad to be here. I write for Scott under the South Florida Tribune under the heading of Motor City Tribune. You'll find me in the list of authors. I am a Lions editorialist. I also am a podcaster. I have my own YouTube channel at Kneecap Biting with Smoking Jeremy B. And I'm on here every week with Scott and George and now Sean and occasionally Dom DeRubis and whoever else he brings in. You never know who that fourth guy is going to be. Sometimes it's just the three of us. Sometimes it's a bunch of us. But it's fun to do.
Well, we enjoy having you. Words don't describe the addition that you've actually been, Jeremy. And I only bring on Monday night, but whenever I need you on the network as well, you fill in admirably, particularly when I ask you on short notice. You're always there, and you are so much appreciated beyond words that I can say. With that said, okay, my partner of 43 years, George Eichhorn, GE stands for George Eichhorn. Everybody in the real world says GE stands for General Electric. I hope I don't get copyrighted issues on that guy. But the GE is what it is, and George, welcome back.
Well, thank you very much. Good to be back. And on a side note, my brother Marty used to work for GE, General Electric in Detroit on 8 Mile and Chainer.
ME. So me?
Good to be
so
back.
Me used to work for GE?
Emmy used to work for GE.
Yeah. Me used to work for GE. Yeah, ME. Me.
Okay. All right. Well, anyways, George Eichhorn, glad to have you on. Tonight we have a really packed show. But before we do that, we're going to bring on Sean McCabe. What's good about Sean McCabe is his initials are SM, and so are mine, but that's beside the point. Sean McCabe, though, is a product of social media. I ended up finding him on the Motor City Tribune Twitter page, and Sean approached me about a writing opportunity, and I said, sure, you're welcome to write for us. But I also might like to have you on as a podcaster, and Sean will open up the idea. So Sean is just an example that we'll find people, if they're talented and they're ambitious, we'd love to bring you on. It really is. It's an open platform. And to me, you don't know who you're going to come up with. I give everybody a chance until they work themselves out of the program. I'm looking for studs, and I'm very confident that Sean McCabe is a stud. And Sean, what I'm going to ask you to do, please, is give everybody a brief overview of yourself, what you do, and how they can get a hold of you early, and then you'll get to do it again afterwards. Okay. The floor is yours, Sean.
Yeah, absolutely. Just a diehard Michigan and Detroit sports fan, born and raised in the area. Went to school for journalism at Wayne State, got out of school, did a little bit of writing for a couple local papers, News Herald, Press and Guide, a little bit for Free Press and stuff like that. Then I got into, banking world and stuff like that, and then transferred out of that. Now I'm looking to get back into media, sports coverage. So I got a hold of Scott. Thanks for having me on, Scott. It's a pleasure. You guys can find me on Twitter at Chone Figgins, and at my personal Twitter is at Sean McCabe _WSU. Look forward to being on the show, and I'm excited to hash out some things with you guys.
Wow. Yeah, I'm confident you're going to fit in really well. So, all right, folks, let me give you an overview of what we're going to talk about, and we'll do them one at a time. We're going to talk about the Wolverines beat down of the Purdueboilermakers. Save the nicknames, Jeremy. We don't need them. Okay, this is rated. Yeah, I know. Some of them tend to really, 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 but it's okay.
This one's clean. It's per don't.
Okay, well, that's okay. I can live with Purdue. Okay. So the Michigan Wolverines went over Purdue. Okay, that's good. We have the Detroit Lions, how they smoked the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I only put that in there, Jeremy, because of the smoking business on you. So it was very appropriate. And, of course, some news that took place today. Justin Verlander will be rejoining Max Scherzer, the member of the New York Mets. We all know about the Matthew Stafford situation in LA Rams. Obviously, he's out because of injuries. We'll go into more details there. And some Tiger notes. We'll talk about Matt Boyd as well as Rick Porcello. So that's just an overview of what we're going to talk about tonight. Lead story: Michigan Wolverines taking on TCU. They did that by beating the Purdue Boilermakers, who were game really for a lot of that game until the Michigan Wolverines overpowered them in the second half. All right. So with that said, I'll turn it over to Jeremy. Give me your thoughts about the Wolverines taking care of business on Saturday night.
As they've done with their previous games they've been undefeated in, they did it again. All they allowed was field goals. They have that bend but don't break defense that stops teams in their tracks. I mean, yeah, granted it was 12 points because we were up and they had 10 points at the half, and then they scored 4 field goals to end the game. So this team has got a national championship caliber defense. The offense is the only thing that struggles to get going between midway through the first quarter to the end of the half. They seem to struggle to get it together. If they can fix that before they play against TCU and whoever they face after that, they have the chance to go far in the playoffs this year.
Very good. Okay, George.
Well, yeah, I mean, I agree with Jeremy. It was that first half was a little bit too close for comfort for me, but typical of Michigan, they piled it on in the second half, which they've been doing to their opponents all season long. Again, Blake Corum is missing, but and they didn't have a strong running game, but they did fine in that department. I think it was a good effort for JJ McCarthy. I think he played a good game, solid game. Good passing. I think all around they've got a really good chance. And they should be able to handle TCU, but there's a lot of time left before we get into those predictions. That's not till the end of the month.
Right.
In the Fiesta Bowl, they're going to play each other. And then, of course, Ohio State had to sneak in. Thank you, USC.
And TCU.
And TCU.
Because that's what shook up the whole playoff rankings.
Yep. And so the Buckeyes got in there. So do we dare say there could be another rematch? There could be. U of M and OSU, but I don't think OSU's can handle Georgia. But who knows? Everything's on the table.
If that defense plays the way it did against Michigan, there's no chance for Ohio State.
Yeah, but I think the college football, before I turn over to you, Sean, okay, college football playoff committee, they didn't want Michigan and Ohio State.
Not in the first round.
No, they didn't.
No.
That's why they left TCU where they were at 3.
Yeah,
exactly.
They're playing the die too. Yeah, they're playing the odds. I mean, it's a dream scenario having Michigan, Ohio State in the national championship. I mean, the ratings would be through the roof, and people's heads would explode. So there's betting on that. Hopefully, the Buckeyes can upset Georgia. I don't think it's going to happen, but we will see in the next couple of weeks.
So, Sean, okay, let me ask you a question. By the way, Jennifer Matthews-Lewis, thanks very much for joining us. And Jennifer, in front of a live audience, let us know if you want to come on the Sports Exchange Wednesday night. If you do, great. And I'll bring everybody on that night because it's going to be a loaded show anyways. And we'll see what happens. The only one that will probably go nuts will be JB Ellis because I don't know how many topics I'm going to put on with a full house, but I'll cross that bridge when I get the commitment. So, okay, let me go back to you, Sean. Now I just want to make sure we can hear you properly, okay? So if your volume, just making sure, I think your volume's okay, but I just want to make sure everything's intact. But that said, okay, give me your assessment, Sean, about the Michigan-Purdue game.
Yeah, I thought just like pretty much every other game, they started off slow. Well, not really. I mean, they scored in the first drive, but the first half they started off slow, let Purdue hang around. Aiden O'Connell and Charlie Johnson were kind of carving us up and down the field, but couldn't really get in the end zone. So that's kind of how our defense has been all year. And then I don't know if Jim Harbaugh has a magic lamp with a genie or a phone line to God or something in the locker room at halftime, but something happens in the locker room at halftime. And they come out and just start gangbusters in the second half. And that first 6.5 minutes, I mean, they scored the 2 touchdowns. You got, Donovan Edwards guy's almost 400 yards the last 2 games, so even though Form's out, it looks good. The only thing that's got me worried is the passing defense the last couple weeks has been getting beat up pretty good in terms of chunk yardage. Obviously, they're getting turnovers, which is nice, but Duggan can really sling it for TCU. moving forward. I think we'll be all right. I think we'll be able to handle TCU moving forward. I think we'll be able to get to the championship game pretty easy. But yeah, I think they pretty much performed like I thought they would, and they could do the rest of the year minus the Illinois game, just coming out and crushing in the second half, and defense really stepped up, getting those 2 picks. So I was pretty impressed with them.
All right, the only thing I want to add to this, okay, and there's just a couple of things. We all know Blake Corum is out for the year, but this is 4 weeks out down the road. Do we really think I don't know the nature of the injury, so I'm not a medical guy anyway.
It's an ACL. He won't play.
Okay, it is. Okay, well then that.
Well, I thought it was a meniscus, which means he still probably won't play.
Yeah, it's the meniscus around the ACL, which could cause it to tear. That's the main thing. It's that side of the meniscus around the ACL and MCL, I think it was. And if you have that type of tear in the meniscus, that leaves you prone to an ACL or MCL tear if you try to cut or twist or turn in the wrong direction. So there's no way I think he should play.
Well, I didn't know the extent of it, so that's why I'm glad that you went out there and did say no. So Wolverines obviously have had a couple of weeks without Blake. So as a result, they're trying to go ahead and figure out what they can do. And now they have a few weeks to go with their other backs. With that said, I can tell you one thing, though, and I was kind of intrigued when I saw it. Jim, did you guys notice that Jim Harbaugh emphatically said he was coming to the Wolverines in 2023? So he's telling the pro guys, you know what, not interested
Back off.
From last year.
I saw that. Yeah, I'm glad he said that.
Not only that, don't forget this new contract. He has to pay back a crap load of that money if he leaves the team early. He signed like I won't leave type of contract.
Right. But you know what's going to happen though, Jeremy? He did sign that, but you know what? Ward Manuel is going to give him yet another raise depending on how far he goes. The Michigan Wolverines can pay anybody anything they want when you put $100,000 in there and all the money that they have floating over at the big house and the neighboring areas around. So now, but I'm glad he got it out there in advance. Hey, thanks for the consideration. He basically told the Minnesota Vikings.
In other news, we also lost a tight end for the rest of the year because he hit the transfer portal. They haven't announced where he's going, but more than likely, it was the guy that was really good friends with Cade. More than likely, he's heading to Iowa.
Okay, well, thanks for bringing it up. And we'll go ahead and give me more information on that. But Harbaugh to me, but I'm glad. Again, it's all about breaking news. Folks, this is a fluid broadcast. Things come in. We all contribute when we do. You know, we don't leave topics out and make them wait till next week. Our goal is we get it, we put it out there. George and I can understand what it means.
Did LSU expose the Georgia defense a little bit because they were prone to gash plays in the run game as well as the passing game? It was up the middle. And I've said all along, Georgia's safeties are not as good as they were last year. And it showed because they were getting gashed right up the middle. And, you know, LSU is wide receiver U anyways. They're not known for great running backs. Their last good one was who? Fournette?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, all right, so we'll stay on point, though. And I'm glad you brought that up, too, Jeremy. You're always full of good information. And I wouldn't expect anything less than you anyhow because you learned the system well. However, all I can say is, as I mentioned moments ago before we go on to the Detroit Lions, Jim Harbaugh is getting another raise. He had 2 incredible years. Was he only lost 2 games in the last 2 years? Yeah, I think he's worth a little bit of this. All right.
Well, and he told Ward last year, too, after the Minnesota interview and stuff like that, when he didn't get the job, he said he was going to be at Michigan for long. Well, now I trust Jim. Coaches sometimes say that and leave the next week. Yeah. But I believe he's going to be here for a while. Yeah,
good point. Good point, Sean. All right, let's go on to the Detroit Lions. Smoked the Jacksonville Jaguars 40-14. DJ Shark got a little bit of revenge against the Jaguars. I saw DJ play a lot when he was in Jacksonville. Heck of a receiver. I know the Lions got him for a year, $10 million, but nothing like exacting revenge against your old team that gave up on you. But let's forget about the game against Jacksonville. The battle of 2 clubs that, by the way, had 1 and 2 in the draft, and that Aiden Hutchinson slipped to number 2. How did that work out? I thought he was going to Jacksonville, but they got another player from the Southeastern Conference. I can't remember his name. Was it Trayvon Walker? I think it was. Well, I don't remember.
So.
Yeah.
Let's start the promo. Aiden Hutchinson for Rookie of the Year with getting another sack. He's at 6.5 sacks. He's got 40 pressures. He's got 5 tackles for loss. At 6.5 sacks, he has more sacks than Thibodeau and Walker combined.
Wow.
He also has the exact same amount of interceptions that Sauce Gardner has.
Yeah.
All right. Well, with that said, Jeremy, give me a quick overview about what happened with the Lions and the Jags.
I said it in my pregame show, and I'll say it right now. Trevor Lawrence cannot have 3 good passing games in a row. He just can't. It's happened ever since he's came into the NFL. He'll have 2 games, and then he has a snoozer for 2 or 3 games. And that's exactly what happened. At the half, he was 9-19 for 63 yards.
Okay.
That's horrible. And the defense just buckled down. The secondary played better. And I said this before, and I'll say it again. The turnaround was when they fired Aubrey Pleasant, because not only was he the DB coach, he was the defensive passing game coordinator for the Lions.
It's amazing how that worked out. I'll turn over to George Eichhorn. You were at the game.
Yeah, I was, and the crowd was really into it. Certainly, Lawrence did not have a good game at all. I think the Lions played their best game, totally complete game, offense and defense, special teams. Oh my God, Badgley, the kicker they picked up, this guy is gold, man. They finally got a good kicker again, and this kid is really hitting that ball. And
we never had to punt.
No punt. So the multi-million-dollar Fox got the day off, except for holding for his buddy Badgley.
And he did
Goff,
kickoffs.
Another solid game by quarterback Goff. Good effort all around. I think that the Lions really put forward a strong effort. And like Dan Campbell said, he goes, we're doing something special here in December. This means a lot to this team. We're getting off to the start we want in December. Came off that loss to Buffalo on Thanksgiving Day, and he was really proud of them. Obviously, everybody was. So the Lions are in the thick of the playoff hunt for those last couple of wild card spots. A lot of stuff going on around the league with teams that are above them, but and a couple below them. But all that being said, these games are significant now, and the Lions have a schedule that they can win.
Sean, what's your take?
I thought it was the best game they played in, I don't know how long, 5 years probably. The offensive line was fantastic. Goff had all day, 6 years, yeah. Goff had all day to throw, and when he plays like that and the offense plays like that, we can beat anybody. And I really like how Holmes is drafted, too. I mean, these rookies coming in this year are playing their butts off. Nothing Rodriguez and linebacker. You got, Amon-Ra St. Brown, the second-year player, he's amazing. Hutchinson, and then even the kid Houston, who didn't start his first game till last week, he's got 3 sacks already, which is second among all rookies behind Hutchinson. So just really nice job the way they're building this team and the way the young players are actually getting better throughout the year and contributing. And you can see the confidence building. I think they got a real good shot to win 9 games, maybe even 10. But they're really trending in the right direction. It's nice to see, and nice to see how much they brought in camp.
All right, let me add a couple things to it before we go on to another football-related topic. Number one, you know how to avoid losing close games, which the Lions are very good at? Have a kicking
Don't
game.
let the game be close.
Well, that's true. That's true, Jeremy. But let me. I want to make sure I get this point of emphasis out there. Okay, kick field goals. Okay, they do count as points. Now, listen, I didn't get a master's degree at Harvard University to study gridiron. I did not do. I know Harvard is a good school. I'm not an Ivy Leaguer. I'll never pretend to be one. And although I'm proud of my alma mater, I won't lie about that. But kick field goals, they do count. The last thing I understood is they count as 3 points. And when you kick field goals, you kick the habit of coming up empty. Now, once Dan Campbell believes that you can kick field goals and they do points on the board, then nobody's talking about you going out there and losing these close games. Albeit, I know they needed a good kicker. George alluded to that, to be able to, that you can depend on. The last one that I really enjoyed was Matt Prater. If you were kicking, you were having fantasy football, Matt Prater was the equivalent to Gus, that kicking mule, that many years ago. This might be a little before your time, Sean. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know. But I'm not trying to imply the age card, Sean. But that movie, Gus, of the kicking mule, is one of my favorite movies. Especially
it was a great movie. I remember it. But let's talk about great kickers we've had. In the 80s, it was Eddie Murray. 90s through 2000s, it was Hansen. In 2010, it was Prater. Eddie Murray, as great as he was in '84 when we made the playoffs, and after going 1-4 and then coming back and making the playoffs, we lost on him missing that field goal
Yeah, Monty
against the
Clark on the
49ers.
sidelines.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Scott and I go back to another one, Arrow Man.
Oh,
Arrow
yeah.
Man.
Mm-hmm.
Detroit's always had great kickers. You're right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Sean.
the one position we've been good at is kicker for the last 30 years.
See,
So.
Yeah,
that's
we've
what's
had like
good about having-
five bad years in all that time.
That's what's good at having a guy like Sean on the broadcast, because now I got a younger guy who's gaining knowledge by the second. Okay. And the Lions, we know, and then don't worry, we get through with you, Sean. Oh my God. Well, I don't know what we're gonna do. We're gonna guarantee one thing, Sean. We're gonna make you a whole lot smarter. That's all I can tell you. What
I'll
you want
take
to get on these shows is up to you. But no, all kidding aside, because we have a lot of other ground I want to get to. Is Dan Campbell have a little faith in the kicking game, and you might end up winning these games, these close games, and I have a feeling, and maybe we'll get to a prediction later on. No, we'll do it now. Okay. I do believe the Lions will beat the Minnesota Vikings on Sunday. I really do. All right. And quick, everybody, quick, because we got a lot. Jeremy, do you think they're going to beat the Vikings?
32-21, Michigan win or Detroit wins.
Yeah, well, Detroit, Michigan. Okay, just kidding with you. But yeah, no, Michigan got me thinking that now. Okay, 32-20. George, give me a prediction with the Minnesota game.
Lions 37, Minnesota 21.
All right, Sean.
Yeah, I'm going to go 35-24 Lions.
Okay. And I'm actually going to go 24-13 Detroit. So there you go. So no, they're good for at least 3 touchdowns. I don't know.
After what I saw Dallas do, I don't trust that Minnesota defense. And if it wasn't for an interception late, the Jets had their number 2.
Well,
we could have beat them too that first game. I mean, we were right there.
Well, you know what, Sean? That's where I'm going with it too. The Lions were pretty close to pulling that one out, but they'll beat them at Ford Field. I'm with you all the way. They should have won that one. And if you go ahead and win the Buffalo game, you're talking about team over 500. But we don't do with ifs, ands, or buts on this show. We just focus on the present and not the past. And that's what we're
Vegas.
I'm not going to do my if story because it's not suitable for children.
Well, not only that, you'll broadcast later. We don't want to make sure that we go over anything.
I'll do it on my podcast because it's adult oriented.
Okay. Subscribe to his channel, then you can listen to whatever the heck you want to listen, take out of his. So, all right. Well, we'll stay on the football theme here a little bit. Lions, LA Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford probably out for the year. You know, and the Lions would own the 3rd overall pick if it was held tomorrow. All right. So, you know what, Sean, I'm going to start with you. Okay. How good of a fleece job was that by Brad Holmes taking it to his old team? And I mean fleece job, Sean.
I love it. I mean, we're going to get, a great pick. I think we should get Will Anderson from Alabama if we can. And then, I mean, and you could say LA, they got their Super Bowl, so they're happy. But for us, I mean, it's really working out well. We don't even need to draft a quarterback high. We got Goff for 1 more year, and he's playing pretty well. So we can 2 more years. So, yeah, we can work on getting the defense up to par. You pair Anderson with Hutchinson on the DN, we're going to have a heck of a D-line. So, Brad Holmes has been great, and he's really impressed me. He's stolen, he's been taking it to his own team. So, thanks to see Stafford get banged up and out for the year to the Lions overruling now. So I'm happy with how the Rams have blown it this year. Worst defending champ record of all time so far. So good for them.
George?
Yeah, how the mighty have fallen after not even a full year in Los Angeles. I didn't expect this at all. I mean, I would have been shocked to say that the team is failing this badly, the Rams, that is. So, yeah, it's to Detroit's advantage. It was a hell of a trade on paper so far. Stafford knew he wasn't going to want to stick around here anyways. He wanted to go to a team that would win, and he won. Give him credit in his first year away from Detroit. So the trade worked out for LA, at least for 1 year. I mean, they got themselves a Super Bowl championship. But beyond that, no, they gave a lot away to the Lions. And you're right. The Lions have an opportunity now not to go after the quarterback, even though we might get one in a later round. And that has to be determined later on. But like you said, Sean, go after some of that defensive help. Get another guy on the line. Get a linebacker. We need help in the secondary still. Or they might even want to package that and get a couple more picks out of it if they don't want to pick
Trade
third.
it back.
Yeah. So, there's an opportunity there. But you're right, Scott. Holmes has done a hell of a job so far. I like what he's done. He's got his kids in the lineup. His draft choices are playing. which I know Jeremy talked about that a couple weeks ago. You know, that's a true sign of a successful general manager, of a successful scouting and drafting front office.
Yeah. All right, Jeremy, go ahead.
All right. The third pick, if it's not Will Anderson, because I had the feeling the number 2 pick is Chicago, and they're more than likely not getting a quarterback. They're going to go O-line or D-line because they have to. That D-line can't get much worse, and the O-line, it's better than everybody predicted it would be, but it's not good. So I see them to possibly taking Will Anderson there. If he's gone, it's Jalen Carter. That way you got a stud to put right next to a Lee McNeil in a 4-2-5, because don't forget we got Pascal and Houston who can fill in at the D ends as well.
Good points. Well, all I can tell you is we know that Brad Holmes is developing himself as a fleece general manager. I know I keep eating crow over this comment. I'll do it every week. I really don't frankly care anyways. But that TJ Hawkinson move to Minnesota and then getting Jameson Williams, I'm not questioning Brad Holmes. He's the most competent Lions executive that they had in a while. So if I had to go ahead and give Brad Holmes a nickname, we'll just call him Fleece, because you know what? This guy's fleecing everybody. He's going to develop a reputation out here where I don't want to trade him because he knows more than meets the eye. But yeah, and I'll say this here before we go on to other topics. Okay, first of all, Jared Goff, to me, is playing well when you put talent around this guy. The Lions don't need to draft another quarterback, and I'm glad that Jared's playing well. And don't be surprised if they have to ante up a little bit more money with him. Give him talent, and then they'll tell you what he can do. It's not like the guy never won before. Leave him alone. Jared Goff isn't the problem. And yeah, I'll get you in a moment here, okay, Jeremy? You know,
I got some good ones.
Oh, I know. I wouldn't doubt it. That's why I want to get mine out so he can let you have it. Okay, that's okay. Again, your energy to me makes an Energizer battery look like a dollar battery, but that's beside the point.
And all Mountain Dew, right?
You know.
No, I've got a wealth of useless football knowledge up here, and I love to spit it out.
Oh, don't worry. You get a chance to do it. I'm just going to finish here before you do that. Okay, but the quarterback is not the problem with the Lions, and I hope that Jared Goff is a bit of a solution. And Brad Holmes identified that. He wasn't appreciated with the Rams, and now he's finding with the Lions that he got a fresh start. I hope they continue to surround him with pieces. And, you know, you're right, George. Maybe they may draft a quarterback somewhere in the draft, but I don't see it as an urgency situation. All right, Jeremy, I said my piece, so I have to give you the floor with all this information you're going to fire at me and the rest of your teammates.
What was the main reason we were losing to begin the season? Defense not doing their part, right? The offense was first in the league after we faced Seattle, right? We were averaging 35.5 points per game. Everything looked great. We had that snoozer the next game against the Patriots where we scored 6 points. The defense couldn't do anything. We had another snoozer when we played against Dallas, and that's when we fired Aubrey Pleasant. Jeff Daniels and Peyton Manning did their curse-lifting ceremony there at Ford Field with a bathtub full of whiskey and salt. Then you had that's the week of the TJ Hawkinson trade. We've gone 4-1 since that happened. Not only that, what is the one thing that our defense has struggled with even after this? Mobile quarterbacks. The signing to the practice squad today is going to help with that. Joshua Dobbs. He isn't the best quarterback, but what he is very athletic. So you can use him on the practice team to emulate what we've been struggling with to help this team get a scheme together, since Aaron Glenn refuses to put a spy on a mobile quarterback, which makes about as much sense as wiping and then going to the bathroom.
That was good.
This will help with that. That's what I'm getting at.
That was pretty good. You know, I will say this, and then I'm going to turn it back to you, Sean, okay, is that there's nothing better than I like to see a trade, which is a win-win situation for both. Stafford got his quarterback ring, much deserved. Certainly came back with a team far cry from what it was a year ago. It's a shame. The Lions have a serviceable quarterback in golf plus draft capital. So a win-win situation. That's how I sum up the Matthew Stafford trade.
I told you when Matt Stafford watched the draft in 2021, he saw the Lions take Penei Sewell at 7, and he goes, those because last year the Rams O-line was ranked 3rd. Whitworth retired. A couple guys got hurt early in the season. They're ranked 31st this year.
Yeah, I think we're on
From 3rd to 31st. Whereas we, preseason ranked was anywhere from 3rd to 12th, depending on how you look at it. And if you look at their overall play, they haven't been as stellar as we expect them to be, but they're still up there in the top 15 all day.
Let's put it this way. Penny Sewell wasn't the most. It wasn't a sexy pick.
It wasn't a sexy pick.
Right.
It was the smartest pick ever.
Oh, yeah. No, because especially when you have a lot of great talent wide receivers, but boy, what he do when your quarterback has an incredible offensive line, then forget about sexy. You want to make sure your quarterback is sexy staying on his feet. So, all right, Sean, now I'm going to turn it over to you before we go ahead and talk a little bit of baseball.
Yeah, I mean, just to reiterate Jeremy's point, the Rams O-line is just, I think they're on the 5th left tackle. I mean, injuries have just killed them this year, and it's really rewarding us. And they really didn't play it well in that trade. I mean, for a few years, would they not have a first-round pick for 6 years or something like that? I mean, it's really
they haven't had a first-round pick since they picked Jared Goff by trading up at number 1. Every year they've traded away their first-round picks. First it was Jalen Ramsey, then it was the Stafford pick. That's where those 4 or 5 picks went right there. They traded away 3 first-rounders to get Jalen Ramsey. That's why the Jags rebuild went so fast.
They really leveraged themselves to the hilt. I mean, it's kind of like paying for all these high-end free agents, trading all your picks, just like maxing out credit cards or taking the equity of your home all the way up to the million. Eventually, it's going to come due.
Les Neat said, F those picks. I want a ring.
They got it now.
Well, he got that ring.
But I like you said about Goff, too, Jeremy. Like, people just forget. I mean, he was the number 1 pick, and he was pretty solid in L.A. Super Bowl.
That was the other thing I forgot to mention about Goff. That 2018 Super Bowl. Yeah. If it wasn't for 2 drop passes by wide receivers in the end zone and a third one when he was so wide open that it looked like he could have drove a Mack truck into the end zone from 20 yards out, the Rams should have won that game just off of his play alone.
Yeah, I mean, Belichick schemed it up really good. He's the master in that Super Bowl, but I mean, look at Goff this year. He's top 7 or 8 in yards this year, and he's got 19 touchdowns, 4 picks. I mean, he's been playing his butt off, and he's always had the talent. We just kind of gave up on it. I don't know why. So I'm happy with where we got him there. And like you said, for next year in the player option, the year after that, we should be able to really build. I would hold on to him and not try to get a young quarterback. So I'm happy with the direction we're going in the team for sure.
Well, the McVay got upset because Goff was found being Instagram friends with his girlfriend, and they were exchanging swimwear and lingerie pictures back and forth. So that's what started the downfall with that relationship. That was found out in the offseason just before the trade.
Well, Goff's doing all right. His fiance is very, very good.
Yeah.
He's doing all right.
Yeah, no, he knows how to pick out his women, that's for sure. But I'm not going to go in. Although Stafford has an adorable one with Kelly. That blonde with
I mean, what do you got?
Yeah, if she could control her mouth, she'd be gorgeous.
No, Jeremy.
I can't help it.
I know you can't. Leave Kelly Stafford alone. For crying out loud. You know what? I got no problem with Kelly and her social.
She was crying to get Stafford out of there before the season started, remember?
Yeah, I know. But you know what? Leave Kelly Stafford alone. She's the one woman out there that, to me, goes out there and talks on behalf of her. She don't care. I mean, I'll leave her alone. She's a Georgia cheerleader, found her Georgia quarterback, and she's pretty adorable. But, boy, it's hard to go against Christian Harper. Oh, she's unbelievable. But, I don't have to think about it. I'm more than happy with what I have here. So, with that said, we'll transition over to baseball instead. And since we want to talk about rings, we'll talk about 2 guys that have a chance to get one together. And I'm speaking of Justin Verlander, signs a 2-year deal for $86 million with the New York Mets, rejoining maxscherzer. Well, you know what? Again, I have a few baseball topics that I want to go in rapid fire. Okay, so
let's go.
I say rapid fire, and I'll lead it off with you. Okay, Jeremy. Some thoughts about Justin going to the Big Apple to play with his former teammate Max.
Well, that gives him somebody on the back end of the rotation that's solid, because at his age, he can't go 7 and 8 innings anymore. He's really only good for about 6, maybe 6.5 innings, which is enough to be a quality start. But when you have that much wrapped up between your number 1 in Max Scherzer and your number 4 in Justin Verlander, that's $86 million between those 2 guys, because they're each making $43 million a year.
Yeah, but when you think about the fact that Jacob deGrom signed 5 or 6 year deal, 185 million. When you look at the big picture, I think you're getting off with Verlander's contract, anyways. And they identify a win now situation with
Right.
Pug Walter. So,
No, I mean, it helps. Trust me.
no, I know. I'm with you all the way. I'm just telling you that. To me, that was a shrewd move by the Mets, and they must have saw that Jacob deGrom. They were concerned about his head medical and so forth. And why not would go Justin Verlander? He had was it Tommy John surgery, and he recovered well, and as a result, has a World Series. All right. With that said, I'll turn over to George. Justin Verlander and Max Scherzer back together again in the Big Apple in Queens.
Yeah, well, I wanted JV to finish his career in Detroit. Doesn't look like that's going to happen. The Tigers would have never given him that kind of money anyways. They don't have enough. I'm happy for him. I mean, he's making some more stash that he needs, and he had a hell of a year, obviously. Cy Young year with Houston. The reunion is kind of unique because, those two guys in Detroit did a hell of a job together, along with several other key players, as we know. Anibal Sanchez and David Price and Rick Porcello and whom else am I forgetting? Drew Smiley. All these guys left Detroit. They all left because the Tigers were going in a different direction. But it's kind of sad to see, only because they're still excelling. The Mets have a history of choking. Okay, now they're going to be under a lot of pressure to take that team to the World Series and win it all. Let's see how that plays out. Because the Mets are one of those losing teams year after year, or, they can never win the big one. Texas Rangers, there's another one like that, the California Angels. A lot of these teams love to spend money, Scott, but a lot of them don't have anything to show for it. But with these two horses, oh, man, that's a hell of a pitching staff they built there. Hell of a staff.
Okay, Sean.
Yeah, I think it's a great signing for the Mets. I mean, Mac Miller's coming off an ERA 1.75 and just won the Cy Young. So I got to disagree with Jim. I don't think he's a 4. I mean, even though he is 39 years old, I think he's still up there as a 1 or a 2, especially on that team losing deGrom. And they're going to be great. I mean, that's a good team. They made the playoffs last year. Their new owner is going crazy, spending money. I think the Mets are going to be an excellent shot at winning the World Series. I always had the feeling, though, that Scherzer and Verlander didn't like each other much in Detroit. It just seems like, two alpha dudes. It seems like Scherzer would fight his grandma if there's been anything competitive. So it'll be interesting to see how they work out as teammates again. But that team's going to be very, very good. And I'm sure Verlander wanted to get to New York, too, with his wife and stuff like that, living in the big city. But it's a bummer that he's not coming back to Detroit. He's probably going to go in the Hall of Fame as an Astro now with the 2 rings and the 2 Cy Youngs with him. But I know he wants to get to 300 wins, too. He wants to put it at 45. So we'll see. If he does get 300, he's probably going to be the last pitcher to do it for a long time. So it'd be kind of nice to see him do it, too.
Yeah, I think the reunion's pretty good for Scherzer and Verlander in New York. We'll just see what the Mets can do with that. So I'm happy for him. And there are two pitchers that undoubtedly should have a place at Cooperstown when their careers are over. I wouldn't doubt it. They did everything the right way. Plus, they have World Series championships in their pocket, too. That doesn't hurt. And a lot of longevity. So more power to them. All right, 2 other things I want to get to. And actually, there's something that came to my mind that I'm going to talk about right now. Fred McGriff got voted into the Hall of Fame yesterday by the Veterans Committee. But the reason why I'm mentioning it is I believe that Jack Morris and Alan Trammell, he ended up getting in there unanimously by 60, and those 2 they voted for Fred McGriff to get into the Hall of Fame. So kudos to Fred McGriff. He finally got in. Long overdue. Any quick thoughts on the 2 Tigers helping the Crime Dog get in the Hall of Fame?
Well, I'm glad they were invited to be on the committee. Scott, you're referring to that committee that picked them.
Yes, I am.
And that committee before included Al Kaline, the late Al Kaline, too. So Detroit has some respect on there. I'm kind of disappointed that nobody else got in. I mean, you don't have to be unanimous to get in. Okay, McGriff did. But I wanted Dale Murphy. I wanted Kurt Schilling. I wanted a couple other guys to get in there, too. But the same old story. If you don't have the votes, you can't get in.
Yeah, I was hoping Don Manning would get in there.
I know you were.
Kim Ng was there, but he got 8 votes, which was more than the other ones. Hopefully Don gets in down the road, but he'll have to wait a little bit longer. All right, Jeremy.
It's awesome that they did that for him because he deserved it. Fred McGriff was a great running back, or a great first baseman. Excuse me, I'm thinking football still for some reason. But Other than that, yeah, he deserved to get in, and I'm glad they were able to help him.
Okay. Sean?
I love the Crown Dog. I don't think he should be a Hall of Famer. I'm sorry. I mean, he was a heck of a player. He hit nearly 500 home runs, great almost race teams, but I just don't think he had the stats to be a Hall of Famer. But he did make that great baseball video when I was a kid. You know, was it like Don Swarovski's training video or something? You guys remember that one from the 90s?
Right.
Yeah, but I don't think he should be a Hall of Famer.
All right, fair enough. Okay, two other notes I want to get to. The Tigers signed Matthew Boyd, 1 year, $10 million deal. Jeremy, your thoughts about bringing Boyd back to Detroit?
Boyd is a solid starter once he's in there. His health is a concern to me because he's been in and out of the rotation as many times as he has, but he's solid when he's on the field. So I understood it. You don't find that kind of talent that can do it on the field all the time.
George?
Should have never let him go in the first place, Scott. He was a great guy. He's a great guy. Him and his wife in the community. They do a hell of a lot of work for the underprivileged African children. And they've traveled over there to help out in some of the deprived villages. I've always liked Matthew Boyd. Great guy. Good guy in the locker room. I'm glad he's back.
Sean?
Yeah, I mean, $10 million. Well, that's a good deal for Boyd. Jeremy, if he can stay healthy, he's going to be a very solid middle of the rotation guy and really help us out, which is something we need. So I like it.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say about it is Scott Harris, believe me, this guy's going to do some pretty good things. And if he thinks that Matt Boyd can be a contributor, more power to him. You're going to see the Tigers front office do things that we haven't seen in quite a while. So monitor every transaction. And yes, Jeremy, I believe in spending money, and that's what they're going to do. But it's not how much you spend, it's how well you spend it wisely. All right, one last note I want to talk about tonight. Rick Porcello, former Tiger, officially retires after 12 seasons. Okay, Sean, what are your thoughts about Rick Porcello? How would you define his career?
Up and down. I would say. I mean, I loved him when he was a Tiger, but he was hit or miss for a while. Then he had his solid really good years. Went for the Red Sox, won a Cy Young. Well, he did win a World Series with them too, I believe, didn't he?
I think with Boston.
Yeah.
I believe it was in 2018, I believe.
Yeah,
Boston.
That one, yeah.
Okay.
He was solid. He was very good, and I thought probably play a little bit longer. It's sad to see him retire that quickly, but yeah, I remember him fondly. He was a solid pitcher.
One of the better sinker ball pitchers in the game for sure. He certainly went out there and got a lot of ground balls. Okay, George.
Well, ironically, I just read a story about Porcello and the fact that he might come back to Detroit. I'm not sure I think it was Evan Petzold of the Detroit Free Press, the beat writer. I believe he wrote it. And no sooner than a day or so later, Porcello's announcing his retirement. So I don't know where Evan got his information from. Obviously, he did not talk to Rick himself. So, I mean, this kind of blindsided me because, like I said, there was a big story in the paper about the Tigers might be interested in getting Rick back. So I always liked Rick, okay? Rick, he was dependable for double-digit wins. You look at his career, whether it was 10 wins, 11, 12, 13, whatever. I mean, he was dependable. And what a great guy. I mean, just Mr. Baseball, I called him. He had his game face on all the time. Don't know much about him as far as in the locker room, but I would assume he was a good player, a good comrade. Camaraderie was good with him. Yeah, I better than average pitcher, his career. I'd sum it up, better than average.
Jeremy?
He was part of that deal when we signed Verlander. We just couldn't afford to keep him. That's why Scherzer and Porcello left. Porcello ended up being the fourth in that rotation in Boston, and for a couple of years kept them relevant and in the playoffs. And he was always the guy that would end that rotation in the playoffs, and which equaled them winning a World Series. Because if you remember right, that was when they still had Price at the time, because they got Price from us in free agency too after that in 2018, and Price failed to get the win in game one, and Porcello got them to their third win in that series to win the World Series.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say about Porcello, he reminds me a little bit of Andy Pettitte. No, I know I don't want to talk about Andy Pettitte and the steroids. I'm talking about an unheralded pitcher, okay, that you didn't hear much about. Other guys got more attention than he did, but he was solid every single year, got you your innings and got you enough serviceable wins. So Rick Porcello, all I can tell you is you may not get to the Hall of Fame because you're playing accomplished, but you know what? You had something that a lot of players dream of, years and all. And that's to go out there. You had a steady, good major league career. You have a good pension, and you certainly performed well enough to be considered to stay in MLB as long as you did. More power to you. Hope you enjoy your retirement, Rick. Good stuff. All right. So,
well, George Scott, real quick, I don't know if you heard anything about this,
What's
but
that?
I think Porcello would be. I didn't really hear any serious injury news on him when he retired. He's probably going to be on TV on MLB Network, so I think he'd be good on TV. So, like I said, I've got no influence, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him down the line on MLB Network.
He might stay in baseball. I agree with you, Sean. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what, Sean, a lot of times what'll happen when a guy like Porcello, they leave way ahead, there's always a place in coaching for him. There is. You know what they call them, Sean? They call them baseball lifers. So I'm glad you brought that up. It's an excellent point, Sean. But yeah, no, I don't think we've seen the last of Rick Porcello. We may have seen the last of him donning a Major League Baseball uniform, during the regular season and whatnot. But I don't think let me tell you, I've been around so many baseball lifers on the road away from Metro Detroit, knowing I've had a chance to do stuff in the Florida State League and move around. And I wouldn't have enough minutes on this show to tell you some of the ones I've gotten involved with. But baseball lifer, oh yeah, Rick Porcello certainly meets it. But thanks a lot very much, Sean, for bringing that up. Well, folks, this is Fire Up Michigan. The show can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcast. Also, to see it visually, go to youtube.com and look for South Florida Tribune, and please subscribe. And that way you'll see all of our local shows, whether there are media availabilities, whether they're streams or whatnot. A lot of good inventory and content to be out there. I enjoy bringing our guests on. We appreciate all the work that they put in to give us a little bit of their time to educate, inform, and whatnot. So also, I'll go out there and mention our stuff so I don't have to do it again. You can go to our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, for all of our content. You can also email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com as well. So, lots of different ways. And, of course, my Twitter stuff is at Tribune South. So, all right, we're going to turn over to my crew here to let everybody know how they get a hold of. And I have one special birthday greeting I want to go out there and mention before we call it a night. All right, Jeremy, let everyone know how they get a hold of you.
You can find me on YouTube at Kneecap Biting with Smoking Jeremy Fee. You can find me at the southfloridatribune.com under Motor City Tribune with the list of authors, which evidently you can find George Eichhorn and Sean McCabe as well. That being said, you can also find me on Facebook with the Motor City Kneecap Biters Lions page. Check them out. Come on out. Subscribe, like, and share to this show as well as mine. We need to get these numbers up, people.
There we go. Okay, well, I know I've hired you as my public relations guy anyways, on top of the 9 million hats you wear. And Jeremy, I gotta tell you, man, you're certainly one of the best additions we've had all year, and I make no bones about it. All right, the new guy on the block, Sean McCabe. Good first act, my friend. Looking forward to bringing you on. So I hope you are able to make Monday nights available for us, because I've enjoyed you immensely tonight. Let everybody know, Sean, how they get a hold of you.
Yeah, absolutely. You can find me on Twitter at Sean Figgin. That's my D-Spot Sports page. Or you can find me in my personal Twitter as well, at Sean McCabe_WSU. That's where you can get a hold of me.
Well, again, I met Sean through the Twitter at Tribune City, which is the Motor City Tribune Twitter site. I met a lot of good people on social media, and I always welcome new talent as well to come on here so that we can spend time going over everything. All right, George, I saved you for last. I wonder why. You always put it up there and make sure they
Detroit Sports Broadcasters on the air. There's the better side.
That's a better view of it. There you go. That's
and good. Ernie Harwell, Ray Lane, Bruce Martin, Bud Lynch, Van Patrick, Bob Reynolds, Frank Beckman, George Blaha, and Scott Morganroth inside my book. It's available. There's a link on the South Florida Tribune, Motor City Tribune website. You can get it from Arcadia Press or ebay.com. And I'll autograph it for you if you want. You can just let me have it. I'll autograph it for you. So you can reach me at Detroit Monitor, and also read me at the South Florida Tribune, Motor City Tribune page. And I'm at SNG Sports 99.
All right, yeah, and I really, it's pretty cool to have a picture of Muhammad Ali and Jimmy.
Oh, gosh, Scott, you were great. You're great in that book.
Well, you and I, we've been at it 43 years, so it's just great to be able to have you, Sean, of course, Jeremy. Well, one little personal note I want to put out there, quite a good one. I want to wish my dad, Mike, a happy 82nd birthday.
Happy birthday, Mr. Morganroth.
Man, I love you very much. if it weren't for your passion for sports, I wouldn't be sitting behind this microphone right now and played a lot of the sports that I've been able to do it. So, Dad, happy birthday. I hope you have an awful lot more. If there's anybody who should be celebrated more than you, I need to find out because I'm not smart enough to know. I will say one thing about my dad, though, is when I played ball back in Southfield, Michigan, no, not Southgate, Sean. Okay. During the year where my grandfather died in 1973, my dad was a manager of a team called the Wildcats, where we went 21 wins and no losses. And yours truly here, I was a catcher on that team. So I could probably be a catcher on a lot of teams, although I think the knees and a lot of the other extremities aren't working out as good. But Dad, happy birthday once again. Love you very much. And I said 82. I don't care. It doesn't matter. At least you're doing well, and I wish you had quite a few more to go. So, meanwhile, great show with Smoking Jeremy, George Eichhorn, and the newest member of our broadcast team, which is Sean McCabe. We've really enjoyed having you. And Sean, you know what, my friend? You're welcome to come back anytime you want. And I know that you'll provide as good insights on future shows as you did a good first act. And now you know who your new teammates are. So, any closing comments?
Anytime you guys need me, just let me know. I'll be happy to help out.
Don't worry. I do know how to text pretty good. I hate emailing, but I do know how to text. So, and George,
let's go smash some horned frogs.
There you go. Yeah, we'll do that. All right. Well, this concludes this edition of Fire Up Michigan. On behalf of Smoking Jeremy, George Eichhorn, and the newest member of our team, Sean McCabe, my name is Scott Morganroth, the Motor City Madmouth. Thank you for joining us on this edition of Fire Up Michigan. Until the next time, have a great week, everybody, and hope you continue to enjoy this holiday season. Good night now.
Good night.